Welcome to the Search for Sustainability documentary series. My name is Nathan Crane and I'm the creator of this series. And tonight, I'm really excited to welcome you to our 12th and final episode of this series. I mean, I can't believe how far we've come, how many positive comments and how much positive feedback we've heard from all of you. And it just really touches our hearts and makes us empowered and grateful to be able to do this work and to be able to bring it to you and bring it out to the world. And in tonight's episode, what we've done is taken clips from as many of our interviewees as we possibly could about practical, real, inspiring things you can do right now to get started, to get going, to get to that next level. You know, you've heard so much information in these past episodes. You've heard so many good things you can do in all facets of sustainability. And in tonight, we're going to kind of bundle all that together into a series of ideas, a series of practicalities, a series of pragmatic solutions you can do right now, no matter where you're at, to take your next level of sustainability to the highest level that you can possibly get. And so I encourage you just to take 1, 2, or 3 things from tonight's episode and start implementing it right away. And you may need to go back again in a month or 2 or 3 months and listen again in 6 months and listen again and see where you're at, simply because you're going to learn things, you're going to implement things, and then you're going to want to know what to do next. So that's what this episode's all about. It's like, where do we go from here? How do we start incorporating all these things we've learned? And what can we do to actually positively go out into the world, get our hands and feet on the ground, and start making a difference for the sustainability of our civilization and sustainability and thriving of all of us here on the planet. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of our community and for sharing this series with everybody you know. We're truly honored and humbled to have you a part of it. And let's go ahead and dive in to this last episode.
How many times have we circled this fire? A prayer upon our lips. Have we gone to the water's edge to give thanks for these gifts, and we will rise again. We will rise again. My people will rise again.
I remain very hopeful about the future most of the time. You know, it's certainly possible for me to kind of get up on the depressed side of the bed and go, oh, we're doomed. But I remain hopeful for a lot of reasons. One of them is I work with a lot of young people, and wow, I'm so blown away by these people who've grown up with an understanding of the environment and understanding of ecology from a young age, and they've got what took me decades to learn. So partly it's just the young people around inspire me. I learn from them and I'm really encouraged by them. Part of it also is that we tend to think of the future as kind of this uniform thing. It's all going to be the same. And the way life is patchy. There are going to be really coming up in the future, depending on what your scenario is, there are going to be places that are unpleasant, just like right now. There are some places around the world that are really terrible places to be. They're really miserable. And there also right now are some places that are very good, and that's going to be continuing in the future. The future will be patchy, and my plan is to help create more of the good places. And I want to be in one of the good places, and I want to help more people be in those good places. There are going to be bad places, and we're going to need to do work on those. But my focus is on helping to create more of those good places, help people get the tools. That's what I'm hoping that my book, The Permaculture City, will help do, is give people a toolkit and to create more of these good places. And as we do that, then by definition, there will be fewer bad places as there are more good places. So that's really what keeps me optimistic, is I know there are going to be some good places, and I want to be in one, and I want to help other people be in those and create those. So creating models, creating examples of, now here's a great urban food production system. Here's a really good way to get progressive or sustainable policies enacted in your city. Here's a great model of how to do gray water installation. Here's a great model of how to deal with sewage properly. So I have all these models in place so that as we turn out to really need them, rather than people panicking, others can say, look, we have a good model right over here. Come do this. We know how to solve that one. And just pretty soon we'll know how to solve all of them.
You know, people think that it's so difficult to start living sustainably, but it's really not. Make your clothes last longer. Don't wash them as often. You know, don't water your lawn as much. Plant plants that are environmentally friendly, that don't require as much water if you live in the West. Plant trees that absorb ozone, or, you know, protect the ozone and absorb CO2. There are so many things that you could do, like even consider a composting toilet, gray watering your shower. Let your shower water your plants and your trees outside. What about planting a garden? The more food that you eat that's produced close and local and seasonal, you dramatically reduce the consumption of fossil fuels that were used to grow food and transport and store that food. There are so many things that we could do every single day. When my friend died, he lived in Hawaii, and he said, Dave, don't get on a plane to come to my funeral. He wrote this, and he sent a letter to everyone because he knew he was dying. He said, don't get on a plane and fly to my funeral because that plane is going to burn up fossil fuels. Don't send flowers that were grown in a greenhouse. He said, plant a tree in my name. It's all about the decisions we make every single day. Just like when we eat, we have to eat. We say, will this food nourish me? Will it make me stronger? Or is it a recreational food that will actually weaken me in the long run? Every decision we make has an impact. Being conscious of those decisions and living responsibly, it's a beautiful thing.
So what I would tell people who are trying to be more sustainable in their lives is to track your resources. Look at what resources you're using, so what you are consuming, what's coming into your life, and then where your waste is going. And that is the essential thing to look at in terms of sustainability and what impact those are having. So once you, first of all, discover what these are, and they may be somewhat invisible to you. So if you're using electricity and you turn on the light and you don't know where that power comes from, look into it. Find out where that power comes from, and then track all of the ways that you are using resources and then the ways that you are creating waste. Ideally, there is no such thing as waste because everything in nature is recycled, and so that's what we're working towards. But so once you've discovered what impact your lifestyle is having, then look at ways that you would enjoy reducing that impact. It could be incorporating solar cooking in your life. It could be collecting rainwater. It could be just not buying as much disposable products. So that's where I would say to start, anywhere, you know. So just, first of all, educate yourself and understand what impact you have and then work to reduce it in ways that are fun, because that's how you get anywhere.
I just really want to invite everybody just to, love up the earth, because it's such a gift here, this life. And it's so essential that we tune in and really feel the heart of the mother and what's being voiced. And we see it in many different ways, that some things need to change. And we're all being called to action. So I just really want to invite every one of us to say yes and become that change maker by making choices in our everyday lifestyles that is supportive to sustainability.
So I think that people should follow their passion, but live an accountable life and be an example to others. And it's part of a movement. Hopefully we're not too late. and I know we're making progress. For DC, a lot of times people think, or any city, okay, manage stormwater, reduce greenhouse gases. They don't see the big picture. The big picture is that you create a sustainable ecology for more than humans. The best example we have is that we have 3 nesting pairs of eagles in DC for the first time in 70 years. Each pair produced viable eaglets that are now out there flying around and getting on with their lives. But the eagles primarily feed on the Anacostia River because the DDT, PCBs, all these other things, for 70 years they couldn't. Now they're part of that end of the food chain ecology that's showing that there's fish, and the fish are only there because there's food in there for them. The water's cool enough, it's not as polluted. I mean, we've got a long way to go, but that's where nature's telling us we're going in the right direction.
Start small and be consistent. And if it means that you spend 5 minutes a day, 7 days a week, versus spending 1 hour a day, one time a week, go with the 5 minutes a day. Incorporate whatever it is you're doing, incorporate convenience into that, because we live in a society, we live in societies that are based on convenience. This is a big concept in permaculture. If you're going to grow something in your backyard, understand the convenience of walking 50 yards versus walking 5 yards from your back door, and how much difference that actually makes when you compound that with doing that 5 or 10 times a day every day. So find that 5 minutes a day of a convenient something to study, something to learn, right? And take that and go with that, and then you'll use that same model that you used to learn from that. You'll be able to apply that, and you'll see, and your learning curve will get shorter and shorter on different topics as you go along, and you pick up on the things that you really like, and you'll understand how you learn personally as well as you go.
You know what the wonderful thing is? We're sitting right now in human time. We have 150,000 odd years roundabout of human, modern Homo sapiens sapien coming along and developing the strategies of survival and our knowledge base, our empirical knowledge, our observation, the ability to cultivate plants and all that. And suddenly we have this giant brain called the internet. So we can all share this information. We can compile the wisdom of the wisest people who figured out everything they did, the wisest Native Americans and their medicines, the wisest farmers in the way that they treated their soils, in order to protect them, and the work of brilliant minds like Victor Schauberger and Rudolf Steiner, and then Eskimos and their way they survived, and all this going in to this brain, this database. This represents a threshold for us. It represents a threshold where we are finally reached a state of evolution of consciousness where we are ready to start giving back to this earth what we took. So our whole civilization and our whole development as a species has been basically consumption and developing up, consuming until we gain a sort of maturity where our mind finally goes, I get it. And we sort of come out of this chrysalis of our larvae stage somewhat, and we're in our mature phase, and right now that's what's happening. And with the primary governing directive of, say, a flying insect, and it's like a butterfly, for instance, when it's in its larvae stage, it's just consuming, it doesn't think much about what its path of destruction it left behind it. But then after it comes out of the chrysalis in its new mature form, one of its primary directives is to pollinate everything. So it winds up giving back what it took. And this is the life cycle of an organism. Now I looked at our collective life cycle And I said, we have reached the end of the larvae phase because the planet can't keep sustaining that. So it's not a matter of choice anymore. It'll become a matter of, like, you know, evolution will demand it. And we will then suddenly go into a phase where we're giving everything back. And permaculture is the model of that. And like I said, we can learn a lot from the ancient Chinese about how they maintain their soil. They are great soil biologists there. And then we have our people here, you know, and we put this together in this database of how we restore the Earth's equilibrium. The human race, now we have the ingenuity and the collective mind in order to do this really quickly. And maybe even regulate atmospheric chemistry, you know, into perpetuity, to understand how to maintain forests and all that. And we're sitting at that threshold right now, which, you know, to me, that brain, the creation of that technological brain represented the trigger, the tipping point, or the threshold of the mature phase of the advent of the mature Homo luminous, I like to call it. And so I'm looking forward to seeing this period now where we're going to start giving back. And permaculture is the model, absolutely.
I would say that growing your own food is the most impactful thing that you can do for everything from your own health and your own personal well-being all the way out to the impact that you'll have on the planet just growing your own food. You can do it. Every year we host a summit where we have all these different ways of growing food. Some people want to grow in straw bales, and some people want to do aquaponics, and some people want raised beds, and some people want rabbits, and some people want chickens, and other people, there's lots of different ways to do it. You know, find out what you're really attracted to, what really interests you, and go for it. You will definitely make mistakes. You will definitely have failures. You will definitely have losses. You know, get over it. That's what's going to happen, and that's part of the fun of it. This is not, you know, some video game that you just can, it's just easy. This is really real life, but it's so rewarding. If you go back into your own school years, you think of the toughest teachers you had were the most meaningful. Well, life is a pretty tough teacher, but it's also the most meaningful too. And the rewards to you, talk to any of your elders and ask them what's the most valuable thing to them, and they'll tell you their health. They aren't talking about dollars, and they aren't talking about awards, and they aren't talking about, you know, where they've been. They're talking about how good they feel or don't feel, or what, you know, the latest doctor trip. Your health is your most important thing, and growing your own food, growing at least half of it, will make a huge impact on your health.
You can prove to yourself, proof of concept, yes, I can grow some of my own food. I can produce some of my own nutrition virtually for free using sunlight and water and seeds. The miracles of nature are available to me, and they create abundance that you can experience yourself. So one of the things that I've done to help promote this is through foodrising.org, the nonprofit initiative, teaching people how to build their own home food production systems that work without electricity, without soil, without even any weeding involved. You can grow your own lettuce and medicinal herbs, strawberries, cucumbers, tomatoes, all these amazing plants. You can grow your own. And it's very inexpensive. If you look at the cost of food at the grocery stores today, think about it. You are going to work to earn money that is then taxed so that you have a take-home paycheck that you go to the grocery store and exchange for food that in many cases is 10 to 20 times more expensive than it needs to be. You can grow a head of romaine lettuce, beautiful, better than organic lettuce, yourself for less than 10 cents worth of plant nutrients. That might cost several dollars in the grocery store, and it's old lettuce there, and it's beat up lettuce, and it's traveled 500 miles using fossil fuels and transportation and logistics to get it to you at the grocery store, and it's packaged in plastic. You don't need all of that. You can grow your own beautiful romaine lettuce for less than 10 cents a head, and you can do that with virtually no effort. Prove it to yourself. Get these grow systems or build your own or download the plans, watch the videos on foodrising.org. Prove to yourself how easy this is to do. And once you get into this, you'll realize how easy it is to expand the foods that you're growing yourself. Yeah, you can grow strawberries for your children. And you know how expensive organic strawberries are at the grocery store. You can grow them virtually for free. As much as you want. You just add more bins to the system and just make sure it has water and nutrients, and you're getting fresh organic strawberries yourself.
So most people, when they're just getting started, they come in and they say they've never gardened before, they want to get going on it. I like to get them going on something easy, you know, salad greens, potatoes, root crops, radishes. I mean, radishes will come out in 30 days. Salad greens you're picking on 25, 30 days. So I like to, gardening's a fun thing, and it should be fun. And so I encourage people to go out and just have fun with it. But we you know, start with the easy stuff and then work up to the harder stuff, and started getting those rotations in. A lot of people think it's just, you gardening, it's like you fill the garden up and then you eat out of it, but it's really an art to putting things in the garden, having things timed right, so as you're harvesting things, you've got new starts and new seeds to put in that place. And if you do it right, you can get a huge bounty out of your garden each year.
So I think for people that are wanting to live more sustainably and really come back into balance in their own life, know where your water comes from, which mountain it's flowing from. Know where your food comes from. Get it locally, if at all possible. You know, local, organic, non-GMO. Know, you know, read the fine print on any medicine that you're taking. Like, know what those compounds are and what the possible side effects are. Ideally, like, herbal medicine. I believe that the earth has a cure for every single ailment that exists to man. I believe the earth has a cure for it. Find a daily practice that you connect to source and you connect to yourself. Just find, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, to just be quiet with yourself and what you're feeling in your body. Go out in nature, get out of the city. Hug a tree and like really feel your roots in the earth. I think grounding is really, really important at this time, that we all really feel ourselves grounded here. Breathing your roots down into the earth and then, you know, exhaling, like really pulling that energy up into your body. If at all possible, cutting fossil fuels out. That is fueling a war economy. There's blood in that oil. As long as we're using fossil fuels, people will die for it. And I think there's other ways. Paying attention to what changes our governments are making for better or for worse, and keeping after them. Here in this valley, we've been in quite a fight with Monsanto over the, kicking out GMOs from this valley, and Monsanto in turn suing the county. And so there have been some incredible people in the community that have been spearheading, that whole movement, as well as going through the entire legal process to see it through, and to protect this land. If you have children, pay really close attention to what they're bringing home and what they're picking up at school. I think that, as a parent, has to be really tricky in this day and age, because maybe you are living in a holistic and balanced way, but if your kids are being exposed to, other things at school or at a friend's house, of course they're gonna want to try that new Nintendo game or whatever it is that, red dye number 42 1000 lollipop.
Make your own jams and jelly. It's simple as pie. Make your own sauerkraut. You just shred up cabbage, mix it with salt, put it on the counter with a plate on top of a use glass or use ceramic. Nothing else, okay? But you let that just go. You want probiotics? There you go. It's cheap as dirt, really, really, really. It mothers up. It has a little white on the top. Oh well, that's the good news. You want it to do that. You can make your own shampoo. You can make your own deodorant. You can make all of these things yourself. Do you have to? No. There are other people out there like myself making them. Thing is, you need to know why you don't need all the extra chemicals. So maybe make it once. Maybe have your 10-year-old daughter make it. It's that simple.
My life has definitely improved as far as being more conscious about even products that I put into my body. So it could be, everyday beauty care or like skin care. What do I use for my shampoo? All of that things. There's parabens, there's toxins everywhere. So being more conscious about what are some toxins I can avoid? What are some paints that I should avoid? Or, things, receipts, for example, are such a waste of paper, and they're actually the highest toxic of mercury. So it's really, really, people don't realize, but they're touching receipts every day, and then they're touching their mouths or eating, like that. All that stuff is toxins to our everyday health.
What are the things that everybody can do? Every individual, no matter where they are, even the child who goes to school who says, I don't want to eat this chicken anymore, I want my tofu burger instead, will make a difference. And there are increasingly those young people, which is wonderful. And of course, the more we bring to the public eye what individuals can do around the globe, the easier it becomes for each individual.
And, sustainability is different to everybody. I'm a realist, I think. I don't expect everybody to go in the woods and start foraging for a living. But I do think that there are simple things we can do to offset the impact that we have on the earth. And one of those things that I do actively is I forage. I go in my garden, I cultivate certain things. I still have a garden. But when weeds grow that are not intended to be there, I welcome them into my life. I treat them as very nutritious bonuses. And not only is that more sustainable, but it is also more cost effective. I save so much money on foraging during the spring, summer, and fall months that it's insane. Like when I was writing my book about wild edibles, I did a chapter on how it's more economical to forage. And one thing I learned was that the average person spends about $70 on a trip to the grocery store. In my family, that's way more. The average grocery store visit to a health food store is like $150 because we like eating good, healthy food. $150 a couple times a week, that adds up super quick. So does that mean that only affluent people deserve good food? I believe not. I think that everybody's birthright is to be healthy. And so a great way to eat healthy is to eat free food, which is like the best, healthiest food you can get. It's very, very inexpensive. In the summer months, I can offset 60% of my food costs just by eating weeds. And people often say, oh man, I think you're pulling my leg. Like, there's no way you're eating 60% wild edibles. In fact, I just had a retreat recently in over Memorial Day weekend where I had 5 people who invested in one of my movies come, and they learned, and we harvested wild edibles and made meals. And that was the question they asked: is this doable? And I said, you know what? I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to show you. And so every morning we went out and we harvested food. We harvested lots of tablefuls of food, and then we'd make meals out of it. And the whole retreat hardly cost me anything because we practiced what I preached.
One of the things we're trying to help people, the gardeners, realize is there's you need to create a bee haven in your backyard. Is there a little bee haven? What is a bee haven? Bee haven has on the small elements of it. We're just trying to teach you to do one little thing at a time. One of them is throw away some toxic something. It could be a herbicide, a fungicide, a larvicide. What you pick your side. Just throw away one. That's all we ask. Okay. Take away a little bit of lawn. So a lawn, while it's needed for kids and soccer and stuff, it's a huge water waste, and it's actually, to the bee, it's a big green desert. Okay, there's no pollen in it. It's sterile. The crud that's been going into it's just a sterile environment. So take away a little bit, plant something. Plant something. Doesn't have to be native. We're planting something that's natural. So you're able to gain some. Make one of them a food. Grow a tomato. Grow a potato. Grow a bean. But grow a food. And then lastly, we're saying, try raising a bee. And if you can do it, I'm going to say generically, there are bees in the world that don't have human intervention. 70% of the bees are in the ground. So if you can, just simply, without doing anything, you're leaving corners and the borders of your yard free of beauty bark and asphalt. You're letting the ground stay barren or grassy, whatever. You're leaving brush piles. Bees are going to go into maybe leftover teasel or sunflower stalks or something. You're allowing bees to just live in things as they would naturally. So I'm going to say, leave the corners of the yard. To go past that now, as I want to encourage people to raise bees, because if you're raising it and you're actually maintaining this and you're actually caring about it, so I've got a dog that I'm feeding, I care about that dog on the ground. We're having people use holes that we've got, whether it's a reed or a paper tube, or we've got wood trays that are pretty sustainable. They buy it once and it stays there. We've got a thing actually, we help people understand what to do. We've got a bee mail once a month. Do this. It's free. This is crownbees.com. It's the website. And so you sign up for bee mail in whatever corner. But once a month, we're telling you what to do. And so in the springtime, you're putting these holes up about head height. You've got cocoons left over that you harvested. You actually have a handful of cocoons. You're just putting these on top and around these holes. And then really the bees come out, do their thing. They're gathering pollen from your safe yard. You're not putting chemicals out there. You're talking with your neighbors. The bees do their piece. They're done. I'm now taking those tubes out and protecting them and putting them into a shed or something. And then later on in the fall, because it's a dog that you're caring, it's a pet that you're caring for, I want you to increase the amount of these bees in your yard. So we're actually opening these holes up. I'm not drilling blocks of wood. I've got holes that I can open up. So we've now opened these holes up. You got a pile of cocoons and pests. And we teach you what to do. It's really easy. Now you've got cocoons in your hands. You're putting the cocoons in your refrigerator. So these they're going into your crisper drawer, and then you're now able to, with all this global warming that's going on, if in the fall, or I'm sorry, in the spring, in the Northeast, we're seeing winters are lasting too long. You might get a little warm season in there, and the bees are all coming out. It's a very ugly situation with bees, native bees in the environment. The bees will come out and there's no pollen. Well, your bees are in your fridge. So you're able to kind of see where the weather's occurring. You're now putting your bees out mid-April, and bees are doing your thing, you're cycling. So this is, a bee haven is probably our path to help the gardeners learn what to do. And then through this bee mail situation, we're able to help them not only learn about the mason bees, now we've got leaf cutter bees. We're helping people raise bees that pollinate your summer gardens, your beans and peas and squash. It's kind of a fun thing.
So I would give the advice to beginning beekeepers to educate yourself, read books, visit websites, watch videos, and maybe most of all, find a good mentor whom you trust, a teacher who can sort of initiate you and be support as you learn to be a beekeeper. I had my own mentors as well, and they were very helpful to me. And I've continued to educate myself by reading and by going to conferences and watching videos and things like that. It's really a lifelong pursuit to really be a good beekeeper, I think.
The most important thing that people can do is first realize that something does need to be done, that they themselves have to begin to be more proactive and take responsibility for what they eat and what they are feeding their friends and their families, and understand that the government cannot be, at least in this country to date, the government cannot be trusted to be protecting them when it comes to GMOs. In fact, the government is protecting the industry, that's clear, but they have not upheld the law. They violated the law that should be protecting the public. So we have to get active. And so I would say arm yourself with more of the facts, but start learning what foods do and do not contain GMOs. Of course, one of the handiest things now in the US is when you're looking for processed and packaged foods, to be looking for the ones that have that certified by the non-GMO project verified. That's more and more products have that on it, so you get that and you can feel safe. Eating organic is also, generally organic foods are not supposed to contain GMOs, and so that's a safer bet as well. But so do what you can to avoid GMOs in your diet and the diet of those you love, and but also start exerting your influence. Everybody has some connectivity. You're connected to other people. Begin to get the facts yourself, get informed, then begin to talk about it. And don't put up with the propaganda, allow yourself to be kind of cowed by the propaganda. Once you start learning the facts, you'll realize that you can counteract the propaganda, you can help convince people, and you never know. Somebody you convince may know somebody very influential that they will mention it to. Or somebody that you talk to may be far more influential than you realize. So, but the main thing is, start spreading the knowledge, talking to people, because in the United States, most people have been badly misled. And what we need to do is start creating a turnaround. And we all really are interconnected. We start doing something, we create ripples. And a lot of different people creating ripples in a similar way create coherent ripples, and that starts creating waves and a wavefront that actually can start having an impact. So never doubt your own power. First, never doubt the need, how much more power you can have if you're eating healthful food and protecting yourself from foods that may not be doing great things for you. But don't doubt the power of what you can do, both to make a positive change in your own life and the life of those in your immediate circle, but also in people in broader circles as well. And of course, if you don't do anything, then you won't accomplish anything. So, but the main thing is, I think, to learn, get knowledge, get active, and start making a difference in your own life and the life of your community and the life of your country.
I think we're in a situation where we've got a lot of systems that are very fragile, that are pretty easy to break down. And so I think it's very important for people to be sustainable and self-sufficient, just as a matter of general security. But the real reason to do it, I think, is the quality of life that you get. When you're eating food that's been produced on your land, when you're interacting with your landscape every day and getting enjoyment and happiness from that, now your quality of life is through the roof, whether you're in the city on an urban lot earning minimum wage, or whether you're in the countryside, you've made all the money in the world, but that can't bring you happiness either. When you start to really get your sustenance from the landscape, there's a gratitude and appreciation that comes that just takes quality of life through the roof.
So people believe that there's somebody in control and that they don't have any power over the system. But human systems are no different than an ecosystem or a flock of birds. They call these complex adaptive systems. And a flock of birds looks like it has some intention when it goes through the air. But it's each individual bird following some fairly simple rules. They want to be a certain distance from other birds, and then the ones on the outside are responding to opportunities or obstacles or threats. And that's how it looks like the flock or the school of fish is going through the air. The same thing with a bee colony or an ant colony. the queen isn't making any decisions. All of the individuals participating in that system are making their own decisions. And it's the same for human beings. President Obama isn't deciding what the condition of our habitat is. And realizing that the system that we have is created from the choices of all the individuals participating puts you in control. If you want to change the system, you have to make different choices. And the beautiful part about that is we can choose to have a beautiful habitat. We can choose to have a beautiful place to live that is abundant in its food, clothing, shelter, education, healthcare, those things that human beings need to thrive. And we can still have the market. We can still have all this wonderful technology. Because what it takes is developing the capacity to provide for yourself, integrating yourself into integrated closed-loop production systems, the way nature designed us.
I mean, I think that one of the most amazing ways to participate in what's happening is to find a community, find a safe place to get connected and just to discover. You know, I think a lot of people, you know, myself, I was embedded in the mass culture at one point. I was in a fraternity before I got on a spiritual path. I know what it's like to be addicted to substances, to be in codependent relationships. I wouldn't be here if I haven't authentically passed through those phases of my life. And so for me, you know, for people out there, you know, it's about finding community first of all. When you find your community, then all the doors open of what you want to be educated on, what you want to explore, how you want to explore, but starting to find a safe place to transition out of the more mass consciousness. And when I say the word mass consciousness, meaning how popular culture has been spoon-fed to us and how that creates our choices. So what I want to say to people out there is you want to make your own choices. And in order to start making your own choices, you need to be in a place where those alternative choices are embraced so you can find your own authentic choice within that. You don't have to adopt a new culture overnight. You don't have to just leave the familiarity of your life. You can do it in steps and stages, but the invitation is to find to actually seek fulfillment. If you seek fulfillment, all the doors will open, and to be really honest with how fulfilled you actually are, and to recognize where you're not fulfilled is a contrast to put you on the trajectory of finding what will fulfill you. And if you're seeking genuine fulfillment, authentic fulfillment, you will not be guided wrong. Your heart is the key to bringing you into that place. So I say find a fun community that you can dance with, get on the land, you know, connect to nature. That there's no dogma there. It's just nature. So enjoy it.
One model is to try to develop literally in your neighborhood, try to have people, you know, maybe have a community garden in your neighborhood, maybe hold some times that people can get together for just sense of connecting more, having more just parties or gatherings together. It's sort of as what level do you want to move to what we call intentional community? And what is that intention? Do you have a vision? Do you have a mission? You get your neighbors together, maybe there's, what do we want to do with our neighborhood? And you come up with a statement that might actually be a kind of an organizing mission for where you want to go. And then there are little things, you know, share tools, do some gardening together, have more potlucks, share some of what you each know about each other, get to know each other at a deeper level than just walking in the door and waving to your neighbor. And then there's a lot of communities that are movements that are happening within communities for CSAs, community gardens, moving toward, you know, are you drawn to energy systems more? You know, how do you move toward maybe putting solar panels on your house? So is it more relational? Is it more technological? What are the kind of things you want to do? And go in those directions. And ultimately for me, I think it's so important to have a context, have a bigger vision that the world is transforming. It needs to transform. And do you want to be on that side of the process or not? And it can look pretty bleak in the world if you're looking at all the things that aren't working or seem to be, you know, undermining life. And recognizing those is helpful because they can be catalysts to say, wow, this is not working. We need to do something different. And I think, you know, for me personally, the most important sort of cusp point in my life was probably 30 years ago when I realized the world is deeply not sustainable, going in the wrong direction. And it occurred to me, you know, I started recycling, doing some things like that. But at a certain level, it was like, this is a whole way of life change. This is not just trying to be a little healthier, trying to be a little this or a little of that. I mean, those are all good things to do. But it finally was, somebody's got to pioneer a new pathway into a new world. Might as well be me. I might as well be part of that.
And I would just want other people to do in their own way, in their own community, look around. What do you see that you care about? What can you do something about? And it's hard in today's world, everything seems so big. It's like one person can't solve these big problems. And so it's almost like, well, why try? You know, we haven't solved all the problems in education or all the problems in, you know, solar or electric, or we haven't solved all the problems in any field really. You know, we've just done our little thing here. But that's the way it works. You know, if everybody does what we can do, and we move in that direction of what's sustainable, not right now, not just quick short-term rip-off profit, but something that's going to create real value and in the long run, sustainable life. You know, that's the best we can do. And if you don't do it, who's going to do it?
Today, we're approaching 7 billion people, and now, you know, countries such as India or China, which lived more of a simple agrarian lifestyle, are now going, you know, to the iPhone, you know, industrialized, you know, Western diet. We're going to need a lot more planets if we continue on our current lifestyle. It's just a matter of time, and we're really we're depleting the natural capital bank account. And so we need to restore that by cleaning our air, cleaning our water, improving our soils. So, and with the ocean acidification, it's really 911 for the Earth. And 52 million years ago, the oceans became so acidic that 90% of all life on the planet at the time was destroyed. They did a recent study on that through some carbon dating. So we're in the process of heading to that ocean apocalypse. So the good news is we have an app for that. Luckily for the humans and whales, we can take that carbon, we can put it back into the soil, and we can learn to live more ecologically. But that's going to take a change from me, it's going to take a change from you, and we can't wait for the government or big corporations. You know, we the people need to take the steps forward. We can't blame others, and we got to take the responsibility.
It's really quite simple. We need to detach ourselves from the mainstream media's constant bombardment of information. The information that shows us the advertisements for the packaged cola products and the boxed fast food products that we see day after day after day, that because we've seen them thousands or tens of thousands of times in our lifetime, we actually think it's true. And we see other people pulling into the to-go line, and we think, well, they're all doing it, I guess it's okay to do. We need to kind of detach ourselves from that mentality, and before we pull into that drive-through, ask ourselves, is what I'm doing sustainable for the planet? Is what I'm doing sustainable for my body? Or is there some other place I can go that still I can get a quick salad? Sustainable for the body, sustainable for the planet. So if we took that concept of sustainability and make that a priority, and then every decision we make, is this sustainable? Do I need the 8-cylinder car? Can I get away with a 6 or maybe even a 4-cylinder vehicle? Or maybe somebody's got a hybrid, or somebody's got an electric car I can buy, or is there a way I can start to carpool? Are all questions that we can ask ourselves about how we do transportation and what's the most sustainable. So it transcends every issue. There's not a single issue that you can talk about that sustainability can't come to play. Is it sustainable to, if I want to buy a product, is it more sustainable to go to a box store and buy that product, or is it more sustainable to maybe buy it online and achieve that same product, probably at a lot less money because they don't own the box store and they're just going to use a transportation system that's sustainable. So those are all questions that we can ask ourselves, and I think that that's really important.
I've asked myself that question, you know, what is it that I can do? And the first thing that usually comes to mind is what can I do in my professional life? Yeah. And I think we really try to turn that around and say, what can I do in my private life? You know, in my direct environment? What can I do different in the way that, you know, I raise my children? What can I do different in the way that I communicate with my parents? What can I do different in the way that I, you know, go about the community I live in? And I think that's where it starts. Where do I spend my money? You know, I think we all, people in the world, if we really became conscious about where we spend our money and where we spend our energy, what we give attention, I think we can change the total global development within one generation. It doesn't have to take that long. Because we are all responsible for what we have created. By where we spend our money, where we spend our energy, what we give attention. So one of those things is maybe stop watching television. I mean, I'm not saying television is bad. I'm just saying it was very beneficial to us 20 years ago to cut out television of our lives. Because it has a tendency to brainwash you in a certain way. And especially when you look at children, the development of children, I believe that it's a very good experience not to grow up with that screen blasting so many hours a day. And I couldn't imagine living in a household with a television anymore. The amount of time and the amount of energy that it frees up to do other things within the family is just so beneficial for all family members. So I think a small decision like that. I've really also decided that I don't want my life to be run by the daily news, and so my news gathering has become very different. I don't read the papers every day, especially in England. When you read the papers every day, you start your day on a very negative, first step into your daily practice. And so when we have so many other ways of doing our news gathering, and when you become more selective and really focus on the positive things that are taking place in society, it's amazing to see what that shift of attention, that shift in energy brings about in your personal life.
So my biggest piece of advice for someone who is interested in the sustainable lifestyle, homesteading, whatever you want to call it, would just be to start now. Don't wait. Don't feel like you have to have the perfect scenario for it to happen. Just pick something, even if it's something super small, and get to know it, get comfortable, get familiar, and I think you're going to really start seeing the benefits where you are at right now. I get a lot of people writing me and saying, I love what you're doing, and I can't wait to get my homestead when my kids graduate high school in 10 years. And I really encourage, if that's you, if that's what your goals are, to just pick something small. Maybe you can't buy the land right now, or maybe you can't move, but pick something small and just tackle it. Just jump in, learn how to do it, make the mistakes, and I guarantee you'll start seeing the benefits sooner than you think.
Yeah, so I definitely feel that the main thing that's holding a lot of people back, first is education, but then also second is fear. So a lot of people think that, oh, this is like a hippy-dippy thing, or, like, I don't need to do this. But if you have kids, or if, you know anyone that's younger, you're doing it for them. It's for our future generations. It's our responsibility to take care of the earth, right? Or to take care of where we live. And a lot of it is also education, it's fear, and it's also lack of money. They think that you need a lot of money to live sustainably, but yet I think you can actually save a lot of money by living sustainably, and you can live a longer, happier life because you're going to be healthier, and you're also going to create an environment that's healthy for you to survive longer. So if you do it now, start fresh and just keep going. And some things that we can do now, I feel, I don't have all the answers, but I do feel that everybody has different talents and skills, and recognizing what is it that you can bring of value and what is it that you're good at, and coming to a group of people, gathering in groups and figuring out, hey, what is it that we see that's lacking in our community that we can make a difference? Start with your own community. Don't get overwhelmed by like, I need to solve the world's problems, because there's a lot of things going on. But first start off with what's going on in our community and what can we solve? So coming together and actually taking baby steps. Like, that's how it all starts. It doesn't start overnight. You're not going to solve anything overnight. It's like, and you don't solve with violence or with anger. That's the main thing that I want to talk about. A lot of people go into it being angry. I can sit here and talk to you about how angry I am about Monsanto. That's not going to change the world. That's going to turn people off. And you do it in a fun way. You know what's going on, but you focus on the solution. It's like, focus on what can we do? Because I could be like, oh, I'm overwhelmed and I don't want to do anything and stay at home. And that would be from a fear-based mentality, right? So I come from love. I do everything I do with love. It's like, okay, how do I change the world? And how do I do it in a way that it's easy for people to digest? So what my talents are is to share recipes, to share inspiration. And I do it in bite-sized form so people can actually take it in. So whatever your art is, whether it's like drawing or painting, you can change the world by doing what you love. So figure out what it is that you love and figure out how it can impact other people and create value. If you're creating value, you're always going to be able to offer something to other people, right? And that's where I live from. I think a lot of companies, now there's a lot of conscious companies, which is very exciting. Technology is great if we use it in the right way, right? So media, we know marketing is huge to get people to do things, but if you can market in a sustainable way and a conscious way, you can change the world. So there's enough people who are coming around creating technology that's gonna create value for people, who's gonna save other people's lives or save people time, energy. Like Uber, for example. Uber just came out with something where it's like, I don't work for Uber. Uber came out with something like, there's ride shares now. You can share rides with other people who are going the same direction as you. That's great. Save money and also meet a new friend and save pollution, right? So things like that. There's a lot of social media networks that you can, if you don't feel like you have supportive environments, you can find people online and like, hey, how can I help bring service? And a lot of these companies, smaller companies, are coming out providing a lot of value, and I think that's why they're really successful. And also keeping a mission in mind, keeping in alignment with helping other people. So they're teaming up with nonprofits. You can make money. Money is not dirty. It's how you make it, right? How you can make, because a lot of people have this mentality of like, oh, the rich, classism, or they're the people who are, doing all the wrong things, but it's like, no, you can be successful and you can still make a difference and you can do good in the world.
I believe that when people start concentrating on what's wrong, we can't really get to what's right. And so we really need to concentrate on the infinite possibilities and what we can do well, versus how much wrong we've done. And I think we'll be liberated by that.
And I think giving back is a huge part of it. So whether that's giving back and supporting the initiatives that are working towards a sustainable future, whether that means giving back to our Indigenous communities to help, lift them up and preserve what's left there. Spending time with youth.
Change the way you talk to your children. Ask your children to teach you what they need. Change the way you organize your house. Create spaces that are more round than square. Obviously also, drive the most or the least damaging vehicle that you can drive. You know, in Europe now, electric cars are becoming much more prominent, and we will get there too. Promote things away from plastics. Choose the cloth bag, I just see one hanging there, as opposed to the plastic bag. All these little things. And we can't always do it all right, and don't bash yourself over the head if you can't, because we do the best we can. But there are a million things in everyday life where we can begin to move that paradigm over. And then, I was just talking with Brian Clement about that, there is the 100th monkey effect. And the 100th monkey effect means that when between 7 and 17% of a group does something in a new way, the rest of the group will be able to do it too, and will just do it as if it was the most natural thing. And that to me is, of course, another amazing factor. The more of us are living all those little things that we can change, the easier it will be for the rest to follow. And it means we need to work from all ends. It doesn't mean that we don't need to ban plastic bags from supermarkets. We do absolutely need to ban plastic bags from supermarket, and somebody should institute that law. But at the same time, we can begin to be aware and voluntarily also work on eliminating plastics that are very harmful. And that goes for everything.
How can I decondition myself and break free from a certain mold that I've become a part of? And part of that is, like we sit here, you know, find a nice place in nature and just sit and just be and listen. And you might be amazed what comes. It's not that difficult.
So what we got is now. In the Eastern philosophies, they'll teach you that you just have the present. It's a gift. That's why they call it that. The past is not real, but we have this huge brain that thinks it's real. And you can destroy this moment or the present by bringing that into it. A lot of people live their lives like they're carrying a big bag, and it's the past. And they insist on carrying it, but you can see they're carrying it. If you could just sort of reach them and say, look, all you have to do is let go and be in the moment. All that stuff from the past is not real. Many of us carry it around as a burden, and it's like having blinkers on, like a horse would have blinkers. You can't see all the possibility in life and the world when you got these blinkers on. It's the past. We were born with an open mind to the whole world, to all the beauty in it, to all the possibility in it. And through School of Hard Knocks or whatever's happened to us, we tend to close down opportunity and possibility and possibility. And actually, unfortunately, the older you get, sometimes for most people, the narrower that gets. Till sometimes you end up in your 60s and all you can see is this. And all that possibility has been, you've put it away because of your experience. It's always all there. All possibility, the beauty of the world is there for you just to open your eyes. If you can live in the moment and be present just this second. The future hasn't arrived yet, but how you're living now will give you your future. So the instant you drop the past and be in the moment, everything is possible. Unlimited transformation is possible. Transformation of the planet, transformation of ideas. And although you and I might be a little older, it's the children who, those values, if you can communicate to them, you realize they can have anything they want in this world. All you have to let them do is see their power, is let them see that they can do anything. Anything's possible with humanity. We have this huge brain, we have technologies. And if we can learn from nature how to put these both together, which permaculture does, we can totally have a new future. And it's never too late. There's always possibility in front of us. And I see my role as just sort of being that one that sort of goes, you know, see the flower? And the younger those eyes are that look at that, the more invigorated I get, the more passion I feel for possibility and our hope for our future.
If people wanted to get started doing something like this, the first thing I would say is love what you do. Pour love into it, every action. You know, I think when you pour love through you like that, whether it's taking care of this lovely little plant here, you know, or milking my cow, whatever it is, if you do it with great love, something good is going to come of that. I don't think you even need training in how to do that. That's show up, be present, love what you do. You know, it's as simple as that. I think when you do things like that, it doesn't matter what it is, no matter what the difficulty is, bringing love to a task is certainly not going to make harm. So that's, I think, the first part is start to be present. It isn't just learning a bunch of rules. And sometimes I see people learn that way. Like, well, it says here, do this. Okay, check mark, you know. And now I do this, check mark. And it's like, no, no, no. Feel it. Be there. Be present. Love it. Love what you're doing and feel the love moving through you. Feel this love as this exchange of energy in all your tasks. I mean, how amazing is that we get to wake up into this life and then be part of this life force that every day courses through us, every day, and either makes us more vital or less so. You know, I'm in for the more vital game, for sure. I want that. I want everything that I do to have that, and I want everything that I touch and interact with to have that same love that goes in both directions. It goes all around us.
We have a culture of life where money, profit, and greed are the center. And it has resulted in an unsustainable situation, an unsustainable planet. Okay? And we have the culture of life where God, your soul, and harmony with the living planet are at the center of that life. And we have really choices. It's a classical kind of way of looking at it. Are we choosing death, or do we want to choose life? And I bless everybody that we look at it in this larger thing, a bigger statement than sustainability. Do we choose the culture of death and the death it's bringing to the living planet, or do we choose the culture of life and the life that it has the potential to sustain and enhance on the living planet? Your choice. And I hope everyone who's listening chooses life for yourself, for all humanity, and for the living planet.
And so let us together choose life. Let us together choose the path of a thriving, sustainable future for ourselves, our families, our children, and our communities. Let us choose those things, those actions, those products, those services, those resources, those companies, those political agendas, those systems, those schools that support life. And you know they support life when they support sustainability, when they're doing things consciously, when they're doing things in a way that care about people and the planet. You know, if we're supporting things and companies and products and resources by buying them and serving them that are depleting the planet, then we're serving, as Dr. Gabriel Cousens said, the culture of death. And let us choose not to serve that culture any longer. Let us choose to create the new culture, the new society, the new earth, where we support the culture of thriving as a human collective. I thank you so much for tuning in to this series. I hope you got as much out of it as we have. You know, this has been life-changing for me and my family. The positive feedback we've heard from so many has truly touched our hearts. We're so grateful to have been able to bring this to you, and we hope to continue doing this work, continue going out and finding this great information to share with you. And we honor you for being a part of our community, and we want to continue this conversation with you. So let us go out into our daily lives, take actions, start new projects, new things we can do to live more sustainably, and let us create a better world for all of us to thrive on for many, many generations to come. Thank you.
Change are blowing, streams of life are flowing, riding towards the sunset. The dreams our hearts were knowing, the seeds that we've been sowing, they're showing up, flowering faster than we ever thought they could. Nothing is impossible, nothing is impossible, everything is possible, everything is possible. In the unknown I am trusting what this life is bringing us, build this bridge to Exodus.